The twin suns have hung low in the sky, casting long, golden shadows over the jagged cliffs and shimmering valleys. The wind carried a strange, electric hum, as if the planet itself was alive and watching. High above, a lone starship pierced the atmosphere, trailing streaks of blue fire. Inside, the father of the family gripped the controls with trembling claws. His eyes, large and violet, scanned the alien terrain below. He had seen many worlds before, but none like this. Was beautiful and dangerous, full of colors that burned into the mind and plants that shimmered with their own inner light. Beside him, Lyra held their youngest close. The child's small body was tense, but his wide eyes reflected excitement more than fear. "Will it be safe here, Papa?" asked, his voice small but insistent. Looked at him, then at the horizon where the crown floated, its massive crystal form hovering silently above a plateau. The crown pulsed with light, soft at first, then brighter and brighter like a heartbeat. "I don't know, my son," admitted, his voice low and cautious. "We have traveled far to find a home, but some things are not meant to be easy." Lyra adjusted her hold on, whispering to calm him, yet her own heart pounded in fear. "It calls to us," she murmured. "I can feel it, like it knows what we want, what we need." Shook his head. "That is exactly why we must be careful. Power that calls to your heart, it always comes at a cost." He landed the ship on a small plateau near the crown, the engines trembling against the strange gravity of. Dust swirled around their feet, glowing faintly under the crystal's light. Small hands reached toward the shimmering crystal, but caught him gently. "You must not touch it yet," said firmly. "It is not a toy, it is something older than this galaxy." Pouted but obeyed, his curiosity burning brighter than fear. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Do you think it can help us?" she asked softly, her eyes searching his for hope. "We've been running for so long, maybe this is what we've been looking for." His jaw tightened. He wanted to believe her. The family had left their home system after a war that destroyed everything they loved. Their friends were gone, their world broken, and the universe seemed full of danger at every turn. Yet he could not shake the unease that wrapped around his mind like icy chains. "It can help, but at what price?" he asked. His voice carried an edge of warning that even he could not hide. The crown pulsed again, responding to their presence. Strange lights danced across its surface, shifting from violet to silver to blue as if teasing them. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. "It is beautiful," she said, almost in awe. "I've never seen anything like it, not even in the legends." His eyes narrowed. Legends are only stories, and stories can hide the truth. They stepped carefully toward the plateau, the glowing dust crunching softly under their feet. Around them seemed alive. Plants moved slightly as if watching, and strange, small creatures scuttled and shimmered in the light. Laughed quietly, fascinated, and felt a pang in his chest. This child, he had survived so much already. He would not let anyone or anything take his freedom away. Lyra reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We are together," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "That is what matters." Nodded, swallowing hard. "Together," he repeated. And with that, the family faced the crown, a beautiful, terrifying monument of power that could grant their deepest wishes or destroy them entirely. The wind rose suddenly, carrying a strange melody, almost like whispers from the crystal. The family froze, listening, clung to his mother and Lyra too. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the distant hum of the crystal. It felt alive. It felt aware. And as they stood there, staring up at the glowing crown, made a vow in his heart. No magic will decide our fate. Only our courage, our love, and our unity will protect this family. Even as fear and temptation whispered to them through the pulsing light, the new one truth. They had arrived on not as servants to magic, but as a family who would fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. The morning sun rose slowly over, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. The crown floated above the plateau, its crystal facets catching the light and scattering it in tiny rainbows across the rocky ground. The family stood together, their shadows long and tense, as the pulsing glow of the crown seemed to reach out to them. It was beautiful and terrifying, alive in a way that felt personal. Stepped forward, his small feet crunching on the glowing dust. His eyes shone with wonder, and he reached out a trembling hand toward the crystal. It looks like it wants me," he said, voice full of innocence. Lyra pulled him back gently, holding him close. "No, my love," she said softly. "It is not friendly. It does not play like we do. It wants something from us." His gaze never left the crown. He could feel it pressing against his mind, probing for weakness, seeking a way into their hearts. The crystal pulsed brighter for a moment, and suddenly visions filled their minds. Saw endless fields of play, laughter without fear, and a world where he never needed to hide. Lyra saw safety, warmth, and endless comfort for her children, even saw strength and power beyond imagination. It was seductive, impossible to resist. Every heart in the family felt it, a pull toward something that promised to erase fear, pain, and struggle, and yet beneath the allure a cold shadow lingered. Instincts screamed that nothing this beautiful could be without cost. "I feel it," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "It knows what we want, what we need. Maybe it could help us, maybe." Cut her off gently but firmly. "No," he said, shaking his head. "This is not help, it is temptation. Magic that asks for your trust before you even understand it. That is not a gift. That is a trap." Looked between them, confusion in his wide eyes. "But it could make us safe, Papa, right?" he asked. Knelt to meet his son's gaze. "Maybe," he admitted. "But safety that comes with chains is not real safety. Freedom is worth more than comfort. Always remember that." Lyra took a deep breath, trying to calm the turmoil inside her heart. She wanted to believe in the visions, the promises of the crown. She wanted her children to be safe, to never fear hunger or danger. And yet, she could see the doubt in his eyes, the quiet strength in his posture. She knew he was right. True safety would not come from magic, but from their courage and unity as a family. The crown pulsed again, as if aware of their hesitation. Its light flared, sending dazzling patterns across the ground, and whispers filled the air, soft, melodic, almost hypnotic. "Take us, give yourselves, and you will have all you desire," the whispers seemed to say. The sound echoed not in words, but in feeling, brushing against their minds like warm wind. Stood tall, placing a protective arm around Lyra, and, "It wants to use our desires against us," he said, voice low but unwavering. "It will promise us the world and then take everything that makes us us. Never forget that." Lyra's heart ached, torn between hope and fear. She looked at his small hand reaching for hers and realized that love was stronger than fear. No crystal, no magic could replace the bond they shared, the courage that lived in their hearts. For a long moment, the three of them stood silently, facing the crown. The wind carried its whispers, the light shimmered and danced, and the world around them seemed to hold its breath. They could feel the temptation pressing, the visions tugging at the deepest parts of their minds. But's hand squeezed Lyra and pressed closer, and something within each of them resisted. It was not anger or rebellion. It was love. Love for each other, love for freedom, and love for the life they would build on their own terms. That love became a shield against the crown's pull, a quiet but powerful force that no magic could touch. Exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from his chest. "We will not let it decide our fate," he said firmly. "We will choose our own path together." Lyra nodded and smiled, sensing the strength in his parents' resolve. The crown pulsed one last time, almost as if it were disappointed, before its glow softened into a gentle shimmer. For now, the family had resisted. For now, they had chosen courage over temptation. But the crown would not forget them, and its test had only just begun. Night fell over, painting the sky in deep indigo and silver. The twin moons cast soft light on the jagged cliffs, and the crown hovered above the plateau, its glow dim but constant, like a heartbeat that never stopped. Around the family, the wind whispered strange melodies, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone and wildflowers. For a moment, the world seemed calm, almost welcoming. But knew better. He could feel the crown's presence pressing against their minds even more strongly in the dark. Its glow seemed to throb with their fears and hopes, reaching for the cracks in their hearts, seeking a way in. Slept lightly in his mother's arms, unaware of the danger, dreaming of wide fields and endless laughter. Lyra, however, felt it all. The gentle pull of safety, the promise of a life without hunger or fear, tugged at her very soul. Suddenly the light of the crown flared sharply, and a voice filled the air, not spoken aloud, but inside their minds, clear and deep. "Offer your obedience," it hummed, "and I will grant safety, strength, and wisdom beyond imagining. Refuse, and you will wander alone, powerless forever." Claws dug into the rocky ground. His eyes burned violet in the dim light as he stepped forward. "We do not obey," he said firmly, his voice echoing through the plateau. "We are free, and no crystal, no magic will ever take that from us." Lyra's heart trembled. She wanted to trust him, wanted to share his courage, but the crown's offer haunted her thoughts. Safety, strength, wisdom, it was everything she had ever wanted for her children. And yet she saw resolve and the courage in his tiny, sleeping face. She understood in that moment what real strength meant. I don't know if I can resist it," she whispered. "It promises so much, I just want to be safe." Took her hand, squeezing it tightly. "I know, Lyra, I know, but safety given at the cost of freedom is a cage, and we will not live in a cage, not our family, not our children." Stirred, sensing the tension in the air, he opened his eyes and looked at his parents, fear and trust mingling in his gaze. "Papa, Mama, will we be okay?" he asked, his small voice trembling. Crouched, bringing his face close to us. "Yes, my son, we will be okay, not because the crown helps us, but because we help each other. That is stronger than any magic." The crown pulsed violently, as if angered by the defiance. Light shot out in beams, bathing the plateau in a dazzling, almost blinding glow. The wind howled, swirling dust and petals into the air, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The family clung together, their hearts pounding, their breaths ragged. "You dare refuse me," the crown's voice thundered in their minds, echoing like a chorus of storms. "Do you not desire safety? Do you not fear loss? I can give you all." His eyes burned brighter. "We desire freedom, and we are not afraid to fight for it," he said, standing tall and shielding Lyra and with his body. His resolve was absolute, his spirit unyielding. Lyra felt tears prick her eyes, but this time they were not of fear, they were of pride. She had always known was strong, but now she felt the full force of his courage, and it strengthened her own. Together they would resist. Together they would survive. The crown flared one last time, then settled into a steady glow, less threatening but still alive, still watching. For now it seemed to respect their decision, or perhaps it was simply preparing for the next test. Took a deep breath and drew close. "We are a family," he said quietly, "and no magic, no matter how powerful, can break that, not while we stand together." Lyra smiled, holding both her husband and child close. She felt the tension leave her body slowly, replaced with a quiet, burning strength. She had seen what fear could do, but she had also seen what courage could do. And courage, she realized, was far more powerful than any magical promise. The family stayed on the plateau through the night, watching the crown's steady glow. The stars above twinkled like distant fires, and the wind carried the soft whisper of hope. They had passed the first test, not by force, not by magic, but by love, courage, and unity. And as they looked at each other in the dim light, they understood something vital. Their strength came not from the crystal, but from the bond that no power could touch. For now they had chosen freedom over temptation. And that choice, they knew, would shape everything to come. The next morning woke under a sky painted with pale orange and violet. The crown floated above the plateau, its light calmer now, but still pulsing with silent power. The family had slept little, their minds alert to the crystal's presence. Clung to Lyra's side, his small body stiff with lingering fear. Eyes scanned the horizon, muscles tense, as if he could sense danger before it arrived. The first attack came without warning. From the shadows of the plateau, creatures of pure light and crystal erupted. Their forms shimmered like glass and moved with unnatural speed. Froze for just a heartbeat, long enough for to squeal in surprise. But then instincts took over. He scooped the child into his arms and dove aside, narrowly avoiding a strike that shattered a boulder where he had been standing. Lyra grabbed hand tightly, pulling him behind her. Her heart pounded in her chest as another crystal creature approached, its eyes glowing cold and merciless. She had never faced anything like this. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but she saw his face, set, focused, unyielding. And in that moment she remembered the vow they had made, freedom above all. The creatures attacked relentlessly, each movement precise and deadly. Ducked under a strike, using his tail to knock a shimmering creature off balance. Lyra, drawing on courage she didn't know she had, hurled jagged stones at another, watching in awe as the crystal cracked under her aim. Crouched low, mimicking his parents, picking up small rocks to toss at the attackers. For a moment, the fear in him transformed into determination. "This is it," shouted, dodging another blow. "We fight with our minds, our strength, and our love, not with their magic." The creatures screeched, light bursting from their forms, and felt the full weight of the crown's power pressing against him. The crystal pulsed with anger, sending waves of energy that bent the ground beneath their feet. But still, the family fought on together, instinctively moving as one. Lyra protected while finding openings to strike, anticipated the creatures' movements, using the terrain to their advantage. His laughter, small but defiant, rang out each time he managed to topple a crystal shard. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. It was impossible to tell in the chaos. The family's bodies ached, but their spirits burned brighter than the crown's light. They had learned to read the creatures, to predict their moves, and to use their environment. Every rock, every gust of wind, every shadow became a tool. They were not just surviving, they were adapting, overcoming, growing stronger with every strike. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last crystal creature shattered into fragments of light that drifted harmlessly into the air. The family stood panting, bruised and trembling, but victorious. The plateau was quiet once more, bathed in the crown's soft glow. Hugged his mother tightly, and Lyra clung to, tears streaming down her face. "We did it," whispered, voice small but full of pride. Knelt, placing gently on the ground. "Yes, my son, we did it together." His eyes met Lyra, and they shared a look that said more than words could capture. The crown had tested them, pushed them to the edge, and yet they had survived, not by magic, but by courage, wit, and unity. Lyra wiped her tears, looking at the plateau around them. The glowing dust and shattered crystal fragments sparkled under the twin suns, a silent testament to their victory. "It tried to scare us, to make us give in," she said softly. "But we did not. We are free, and we will always protect each other." Placed a hand on the crown, not touching the crystal, but feeling its presence. "It can create monsters, send visions, test us in every way," he said. "But it cannot take what we have built as a family. It cannot take our love, our courage, or our will to survive." Ran ahead to a small rise, looking back with excitement and wonder. "Look, Papa, we beat them." And Lyra smiled, exhaustion mixing with pride. "Yes," said, "we beat them, and this is only the beginning. The crown will try again, but we are ready. Together we are stronger than its magic." The crown hovered silently above, pulsing slowly, almost as if it acknowledged their strength. But the family did not fear it anymore. They had faced its power and survived. They had chosen freedom over temptation, courage over fear, and love over control. And that choice, more than any magic, made them truly unstoppable. The morning air was heavy with the scent of crushed crystal and scorched stone. The crown pulsed above the plateau, silent now, as if waiting. The family stood together, bruised, tired, but unbroken. Held tightly to his mother's hand, his small eyes still wide with the thrill of surviving the magical creatures the day before. Stood tall, though his body ached from the relentless fight. He looked at Lyra, noticing the worry in her eyes, the hesitation he had seen before. "You need to go," he said quietly. "Face it, you are the only one who can end this." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She had felt it too, the subtle pull of the crown, as if it were alive and trying to communicate, to tempt her with visions of power and safety. And now, after seeing their strength in battle, she knew the truth. The crown would not relent until someone willingly confronted it. "Alone," she whispered, fear and determination tangled together. Nodded, "We stay together in spirit, but the crown tests each of us individually. It knows our hearts, is safe with me. You are the one it wants to challenge directly." Small voice trembled. "Mama, don't leave me." Lyra crouched and hugged him tightly, pressing her forehead against his. "I will return, my love, I promise. I will face it, and we will all be free." She stood, drawing a deep breath, and stepped forward. The crown pulsed brighter as she approached, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. As she neared, visions flashed across her mind. Her children trapped in glowing cages, forever obedient to the crown's will. A life of ease without fear, but without freedom, without laughter, without love. Lyra's chest tightened. Fear surged through her, and she almost stumbled. "It is offering safety, everything I have ever wanted." And then she felt his hand on her shoulder, not physically, but in her heart, a steady reminder. Courage, love, freedom. She remembered laughter, unwavering gaze, the unity they had built as a family. The crown could show visions and illusions, but it could not touch what they had forged together. "I do not need your magic," she whispered aloud, her voice trembling but strong. "I do not want your chains. My family, our love, and our freedom, that is enough." The crown flared violently, throwing shards of light like razor-sharp rain. The visions became louder, darker, more insistent, trying to make her doubt herself. But Lyra stood firm, her resolve like a shield. "I choose freedom. I choose love. I choose us." The light of the crown twisted and pulsed, forming shapes of those they had lost in distant wars, calling to her with sorrowful eyes, tempting her to surrender. Lyra's heart ached, tears streaming down her face, but she did not falter. She could feel the immense pressure, the weight of temptation, and yet she took a step closer, then another. A sudden burst of energy shot from the crown, knocking her to the ground. Dust and crystal fragments filled the air, screamed from afar, and its voice carried through the wind, urging her to stand. With every ounce of strength, she rose again. Her mind cleared, her heart steady. "We are free. We will not be slaves to fear or magic." Finally, with a deep, defiant cry, Lyra reached the heart of the crown's light. She placed her hand near it, not to touch, not to bow, but to face it. The crystal pulsed once sharply, then shattered into harmless shards that floated gently down like glowing snow. The oppressive hum disappeared. The plateau fell silent. Lyra sank to her knees, trembling, exhausted, tears of relief and triumph streaming down her face. She had done it. She had resisted the most powerful temptation in the galaxy, not through magic, but through courage, love, and unwavering belief in her family. Rushed forward, scooping into his arms first, then pulling Lyra into a tight embrace. "You did it," he whispered, voice breaking with pride. "You saved us all, you saved our freedom." Pressed his small hand against Lyra's cheek. "Mama, you were so brave." Lyra smiled, exhausted but radiant. "We are brave," she said softly, looking at both of them. "Together, that is what makes us strong." The crown's remnants sparkled harmlessly in the sunlight, now nothing more than shards of crystal. Its magic was gone, dissolved by the courage of a single heart that refused to surrender. And as the family stood together, dust falling from their clothes, smiles slowly replacing fatigue, they understood a truth more powerful than any spell. Love and freedom were stronger than magic. They had survived temptation. They had survived fear. And together they had won. The first light of a new day spread slowly across, soft gold blending with pale blue, touching the jagged cliffs and sparkling valleys with a gentle warmth. The crown's shards, once a symbol of power and danger, now lay scattered across the plateau like fallen stars. They no longer pulsed with threat. Instead, they reflected the twin suns' light, casting tiny rainbows across the rocky ground. The family stood together in silence, feeling the weight of the past days pressing gently on their hearts. Ran ahead, his small feet kicking up sparkling dust as he laughed freely. His laughter echoed across the plateau, carrying a sense of joy that had been absent for far too long. Lyra watched him, her chest swelling with relief and pride. The child had survived the tests of the crown, had faced fear and chaos, and now he was free to play under the twin suns, unafraid and full of life. Stood beside Lyra, his claws resting gently on her shoulders. "It's quiet now," he said, voice low but steady. "The crown tried to control us, to break us, but it failed. Our courage, our love that was stronger than its magic." Lyra nodded, tears glinting in her eyes. "I never imagined we could survive all of this," she whispered. "And yet, here we are, together, stronger than ever." The wind stirred softly, carrying with it the faint, sweet scent of unique flora. Strange creatures emerged from the shadows of the cliffs, curious but cautious. They watched the family without hostility, as if sensing that the danger had passed. Approached a small, glowing creature and extended a hand. The creature blinked and touched his fingers with its shimmering feelers. Giggled, delighted, and Lyra smiled, seeing a world that was no longer full of fear but possibility. Looked around the plateau, taking in the quiet beauty of the land. "This world is alive," he said almost to himself. "And now it feels ours, not just to survive, but to belong to. We fought not for magic, but for life, and life is worth everything." Lyra rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat, steady and strong. "We've learned something," she said softly. "Magic can give you power, but it cannot give you love, courage, or freedom. Those are ours alone, and no force in the universe can take them." Ran back to them, his small hands full of sparkling crystal shards. "Look, I collected them," he said proudly. "They're like tiny stars." Laughed, scooping him up. "Yes, and they will remind us of what we faced, but more importantly, they remind us of what we are capable of together." The family sat down on the plateau, holding hands, watching the suns rise higher in the sky. Each moment of calm was a small victory, a reassurance that they had survived not through magic, but through unity and heart. Lyra felt her strength returning with every heartbeat. Eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now held a soft warmth as he watched their son play. And his laughter, pure and unburdened, filled the air with a joy that made every danger they had faced feel worth it. As the day wore on, they explored the plateau together. They discovered small streams running crystal clear, plants that glowed faintly at their touch, and creatures that were no longer hostile but curious and gentle. The planet seemed to respond to their presence, as if acknowledging the courage that had defeated the crown's temptation. Each step they took felt like reclaiming a small piece of life, a promise that the world could be theirs to shape and nurture. Knelt beside Lyra, holding her hand gently. "We will teach everything," he said quietly. "Not just to survive, but to face the impossible with courage, to never let fear or temptation decide his path, and to always remember freedom is stronger than any magic." Lyra nodded, smiling through tears. "Yes," she said, "and together we will make this place a home, a place where love and courage guide us, not fear." Ran ahead again, his laughter mingling with the soft wind. And Lyra followed, hands clasped tightly, hearts full. The crown had tested them, threatened them, and almost claimed them, but in the end it had revealed their true strength. And now, as a family, they could finally breathe, live, and grow. On the plateau, under the light of twin suns, they stood together, their bond stronger than ever. They had faced magic, temptation, and fear, and they had won, not because of power, but because of love, courage, and unity. And in that victory, they found not just survival, but the beginning of a new life. The suns have shone brightly in the sky, their golden light spilling across the plateau where the crown's shards had once threatened the family. Now those shards reflected only beauty, tiny prisms scattered across the ground, harmless and quiet. The family stood together, looking out at the world they had fought so hard to claim. The planet itself seemed to breathe with them, alive in ways they could feel, as if acknowledging the courage that had defeated the crown. Ran ahead, his laughter echoing against the cliffs. Each step he took was full of confidence and joy, the fear that had once shadowed his life nowhere to be seen. Lyra smiled, watching her son's tiny figure dart between the glowing plants, his hands brushing against petals that shimmered like crystal. The moment filled her heart with an overwhelming sense of peace. This freedom, this life, was worth every trial they had endured. Stood beside Lyra, watching with pride and love that went deeper than the vastness of space itself. "We faced what no one else could," he said quietly. "The crown tested us, threatened us, and tried to control us. And yet we survived. Not through power, not through magic, but through courage, through unity, through love." Lyra took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We have shown what it means to be strong, not strong in magic, but strong in heart. That is the greatest gift we could give him." Ran back to them, holding a small shard of the crown. "Look, Mama, look, Papa, I found a star." His eyes sparkled with innocent wonder. Crouched to his son's level, smiling warmly. "Yes, you found a star, and that star reminds us of what we are capable of. We are capable of standing together, of facing impossible odds, and of choosing freedom over fear." Lyra knelt beside, her heart full of emotion. "Every challenge we faced, every moment of fear has brought us here," she whispered. "We are alive, we are free, and we are together. That is more powerful than anything else in the universe." The family wandered through the plateau, marveling at the small wonders that now felt safe. Crystal-clear streams, glowing flowers, and creatures that no longer threatened them. Itself seemed to welcome them, as if it had been waiting for a family that could survive its tests without losing their spirit. Every step they took, every breath they drew, was a testament to their courage. As the day wore on, travelers from distant stars began to arrive, drawn by stories of the crown and the family that had it. They whispered of Lyra and the aliens who had faced impossible temptation and magical forces, who had refused to bow, who had chosen love and freedom over power. And though the family never sought fame, their story spread like wildfire, inspiring those who heard it to trust in courage and unity above all. Lifted into his arms, holding him close. "Remember this day, my son," he said. "Remember that magic may be tempting, but it can never replace the strength of your heart. Always protect what you love and always choose freedom." Nodded, eyes wide with understanding and awe. "I will, Papa," he promised, holding tight to both his parents. Lyra rested her head against shoulder, feeling a calm she had never known before. "We did it," she said softly. "We survived the impossible, and now we can live." Looked out over the plateau, the twin suns warming his scales. "We can live, yes. And more than that, we can teach others what we have learned, that courage, love, and unity are stronger than any magic, any temptation. That is the legacy we leave." Laughed and ran ahead once more, chasing after small creatures that seemed to dance in the sunlight. And Lyra watched him, smiling, knowing their child would grow up learning the same lessons they had fought to teach him. The crown's remnants lay quietly across the plateau, a silent reminder of the trials they had endured. But the family did not fear it, for they had already proven something far more powerful. that no force, no matter how immense, could break the bond of a family united by love and courage. And so the family became a living legend. Travelers spoke of their bravery across the stars. Stories told of their choice, freedom over power, love over fear, heart over magic. And in every retelling, a spark of hope was born, inspiring others to believe that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage, unity, and love could prevail. Under the light of the twin suns, standing hand in hand, the family looked to the horizon. Their hearts were strong, their spirits unbroken, and their bond eternal. They had faced the impossible and had won, not because of magic, but because of themselves. And in that victory, they became more than survivors. They became a beacon, a reminder to all that love, courage, and freedom could shine brighter than the stars themselves.